Hello to everyone. Thank you very much for attending to this meeting once again. So we have a big audience with us. So we are at the moment 100 participants. Thank you very much once again to take your time to meet us here. And we hope that we will enjoy the meeting. So we will have two presentations, one made by Dr. Vasilis Papadakis, and another one made by Stefan Alves. So we will start introducing the presentation of Dr. Vasilis Papadakis. So Dr. Vasilis Papadakis is the co-founder and the CTO of SpectralTech. He's also a senior researcher of hyperspectral imaging and a professor at the University of West Attica. Dr. Papadakis has degrees on physics and microelectronics. He holds one PhD in computer vision and a second PhD in imaging spectroscopy and imaging analysis. He has over 20 years of experience developing novel imaging systems and image analysis techniques, collaborating in many European and national consortia. His scientific activity has generated over 100 journal papers and 60 conference publications. So I would like to thank you, Dr. Vasilis, to give his presentation. So please, Vasilis, thank you very much once again and start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Let me start trying to share here. Please let me know if it has already arrived to your screens on the presentation.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much for the introduction. So as Pedro said, my name is Vasilis Papadakis. So I have been working with SpectralTech for multiple years. And this talk will be about the technology that we are developing in SpectralTech regarding our artificial intelligence assisted multispectral imaging solution, which is applied to help the preservation of the cultural heritage assets that we have. So in general, what we are trying to do is exploit spectral imaging the best way we can, make it user-friendly, so as every single conservation scientist in the world will be able to use it. So our goal is to have a solution that it's fast, user-friendly, and cost-effective for the end user to use it in his daily practice. I will go very, very fast on the basics. So what we do is we use light. Light is our non-destructive, non-invasive technology that we are actually using to do our work, our solution. So we focus on a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum, which contains the visible light, while it is extended a little bit in the ultraviolet and a little bit more on the near-infrared region of the spectrum. Light interacts with matter in multiple ways, and this gives us the opportunity to take this interaction, which alters the spectral characteristics of the light. So if we have a white light, it returns with, back to a different color in the visible region, which means that every material returns back, like we see here, the black and the red line, to different types of information. So the intensity that we have versus the different wavelengths. While some materials might appear very similar in the visible region, they have the opportunity and they might be differentiating in the ultraviolet or in the near infrared light. You can see the differences by the intensity change that we have in these regions. So our XpeCAM solution takes advantage of these changes, not only in a single point, but also in an imaging way, so across a full field of view. So this solution that we have is based on our multispectral camera solution, which is an acquisition device that enables to collect data in an imaging way, but with the information that is contained in the spectrum that we just mentioned. Just because it's very broad the light sources that we have in our hands are not, let's say, broad enough to cover all the sensitivity range. So we have developed one solution which contains 3 different light sources in one package in order to cover with one, let's say, hardware device, all the range that we want. Now, the result comes out to be a little bit complicated, so a lot of information to be processed, which was always a big pain for the conservation scientists to treat and extract results from it. And that's why we have developed XpeCAM platform, which is a very useful tool, worked on the cloud that gives us a lot of different capabilities, like a lot of resources, are unlimited resources for now for our application, gives us the opportunity to go with artificial intelligence and work fast with this, and also to perform some, let's say, remote operation across wherever we are in the world to use and treat or disseminate our results. The main component, as I said, is our multispectral imaging device. This is XpeCAM XO2, which is composed by a very sensitive sensor, a CMOS monochrome sensor. It has a spectral sensitivity range from 350 nanometers in the ultraviolet range up to 1200 nanometers, which is in the near infrared region. It breaks down all this range in 30 different bands. And with a spatial resolution of 6 megapixels, we can achieve a very good quality of imaging and spectral information. We hear some sound, so if you could please mute your microphones. Thank you. So the whole process of our solution starts with the acquisition. Our solution here is very user-friendly, so you can use it easily in multiple different ways. You can have it inside the laboratory, you can have it in a larger laboratory, let's say, in conditions where the actual restoration or conservation of a network works. You can couple it to a microscope, you can put it inside the tripod and look below if you want to use it in another let's say, sample. You can put it on a scaffold up to the air and somewhere in a building and do your work. It's really user-friendly. By using that, with a touch of a button, you can really acquire a lot of data. You don't need to do anything more than just click a button. And what that does is automatically it controls all the acquisition device and collects the best way possible all the data, the multispectral data that you want. Multispectral data come out in a form of multiple images that are coming in different wavelengths. So you can see here in one book how the image appears on the blue region, and as we go towards the green and the red and the near infrared, how these images are changing. You can also see another example here that by starting on the blue region and going up to the near infrared, how the image is changing. And these changes are exactly what we saw before on the spectral graph. It's the intensity of the reflection that we receive from the object that we are monitoring, we are observing. And that's why you see a big change in this hat. It's very reflective, while here it's not reflective anymore. And these changes versus the wavelength contain all the information from the material that we want to study. Now, after the acquisition is done, we have developed a XpeCAM platform, as I told you before, which is very easy to use. You just log in on the platform, you upload your data automatically by, let's say you select the data and they are uploaded automatically on the cloud, and then you have them on your gallery. So you can see here on a sample that we have from a stamp, how all the data appear versus the different wavelengths that we have acquired by our system. Following the data that are on the cloud, then the system automatically generates a set of images. This is the RGB image, because if you remember, I told you that the camera, XpeCAM XO2 camera, contains a grayscale, a monochrome sensor. So it does not capture immediately color information, the 3-color information. What it does, it acquires almost 15 different wavelengths in the visible range, which are then used to compose in higher color quality the color representation of our object, which is this one. So let's say the color resolution that we have is better in this condition. Further than the color image, we are generating some false color images. This is a very well-known infrared reflectography false color image, which is used by using the near-infrared light to alter the color representation of our object. And by doing that, this changes, so this blue that became red gives us information of which blue we might have in this object by just visualizing fast. Similarly, because in the past they were using different films, this work was done with films and some filters that were blocking blue light and that were allowing more infrared light to go through. Based on the chemical composition of the film, there were some changes, and we incorporated both of those changes that we were finding, so a shorter near infrared and a little bit further towards the near infrared image, false color image, that everybody who's more familiar with these images could use the one that suits him more. And we have also developed the UV reflectography false color image, which does the opposite. So instead of going towards the near infrared and including the near infrared light inside the hue of the visible image, we are using the UV light. And this is the result that you can get. And this, like I said, contain a way to visualize fast changes that exist on your pigments, on your different pigments on the sample. Following that, we are automatically calculating some spectral similarity maps. So what we actually do is we take all the images, all the pixels, all the information that are contained in our data set, and from there we calculate and we say which pixels are very similar in terms of the reflectivity, aka the spectral characteristics that they have, and merge them in one map. As you can see here, the red pigment that exists on this stamp is actually marked as very similar, and we can actually see all these highlighted dots that are contain the same spectral information from all the image that we have. Similarly, you can see here for the blue pigment. So you can actually see where exactly this blue pigment exists across all your stamp. So you know that, okay, I have a small point over here, which means that this part of the area that I need to examine could contain information from the same pigment. It's easier to identify regions on your imaging where exactly similar spectral characteristics exist. So following the automatic generation of images, you have the capability also, due to the high accuracy of our color recording that we do from the artwork, to actually observe different changes or measure with the CLab color coordinates exactly the color information that exists on a specific area. For example, if we look right here under this image I, on the cheek here, you can actually see that the coordinates of the LAB are exactly displayed here. If you do the same selection of another area on the other side of the person's cheek here, you collect some different image information. Now, this comes out of an average. So you can see that I have a different area here and a different area over here. I don't really care about that as long as the homogeneity of what information is inside the box is good. If it is, then the average will provide me with a very accurate number of what the color coordinates of the full average of this area is. And then after we select the two areas, we can actually see that the delta E, the color differences, is displayed by this number. If I select two areas which are very close to each other, I see that the color differences are very, very small. We are using these color coordinates to assist people who want offline to compare changes across, but they have one painting to see, for example, if one area of the artwork is more damaged than another, or if due to the coating layer, I mean, or if the same pigment was used across two different areas. It's very useful for the conservation scientist. Now, all these images are then going into the gallery. You have a lot of different set of images that you can use. They're automatically generated and placed in this gallery. And you can actually go and use this button to download every image that you have in a PNG format, which is easily to open in any type of operating system or computer you want to use. So you can take it and use it in your report, in your dissemination activities, paper, whatever you want to use it for. It's not protected by any, let's say, proprietary software that only under our platform you can use it. No, you can use it, download it, and for your own purposes, use it. Now, another tool that we have very recently developed is stitching. Stitching is an amazing tool, very, very complicated, that what happens is you have a very large artwork that you want to acquire multispectral information from it. Like we said, multispectral imaging is a 3D cube. So it contains a number of images, 20, 25 different images, that are then merged into a three-dimensional cube. So stitching these spectral cubes is a little bit more different than stitching a single set of color images together. It's a little bit more complicated because you have to be accurate in multiple dimensions, not only in the XY and magnification differences that you have, but also in the spectral domain, which is providing you some chromaticity problems and other things that you need to resolve. So in this solution that we have developed, what an end user can do is acquire the individual areas from a large artwork with an appropriate overlapping. Approximately 20% overlap of the images would be sufficient in this case, and then acquire all the sets that he wants. By placing those sets into our platform and performing the actual data processing, automatic data processing that the platform provides, when the cubes are completely processed, then there is another functionality that you can go and select the individual projects, which are representing each of the areas that you have acquired, and merge them into a larger project. And this larger project gives you a result like this. You can actually see how, if you have experience on how stitching software works, you can actually see in this enhanced image that you have approximately 9 different cubes that have been stitched together with a quite really good result. As you can see, you can actually visualize some cropped areas, but in some other cases, you can actually see no difference. So the stitching has been very well successfully, not only spatially, so not only the images have been brought in the correct position, but also the hue changes, the color changes that you see from one cube to the other have been really, really good, corrected and placed in this larger format, in the large area. So this is under constant development. I believe that we have the state-of-the-art of the stitching algorithm right now in the market, but we are still working on it to improve every aspect of the stitching functionality. And this is already enabled to our platform, and you can use it and see the results with your own eyes. Following that, we go to the more advanced analytics, which contain the pigment classification, which comes, of course, after a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence behind it, like the stitching functionality does. So initially, we started with a small machine learning algorithm, a small database, and we had, for example, in this specific data set, part of the artwork, we resulted with some, let's say, pigments, the selection of some pigments. And then we updated, and we are constantly updating our database with new pigments and new materials that are used in the paintings. And as you can see, results were much better after the second update that we did. And following that, we have done a lot of work, and this is the latest version of the machine learning pigment classification algorithm that we have. As you can see, it provides with details about the formula, about the name, and about the percentage that it covers on your field of view, across all the field of view. So in here, it will also give you information on this background that we don't really care about, because the actual object belongs here. So you need to refine and understand exactly what you're looking at. So we see here that this red region here is contained by cinnabar red, for example, and the blue region here is azurite. Okay, and these are percentages that are covered. Now, following the, let's say, pigment classification, we're not stopping there, but we are moving a little bit further by taking all these information and mapping on the real object the areas where this specific pigment or material exists. In this case, we have this large artwork, and we see that azurite natural was actually placed here. You can actually see some small points also that you have some traces of the specific pigment. Now, we overlay these findings, this map, on the visible image, so you are able to identify it faster where it is located on your artwork. But you can also extract the single map of where exactly the coordinates of this pigment exist on the field of view that you have. So it's not overlaid on the image. So you can actually perform some more statistics if you want to go in more detail on this image map. Similarly, here you can see that medium red was identified across all these points, and this is the clear map of where this pigment exists. Lastly, we have tried to assist the end user by generating automatic reports. So a lot of time is lost on the automatic report generation, and we want to avoid that time loss for the end user. So we have worked a lot by using a lot of techniques here to generate a report that contains all the information that the platform has generated. Not only that, there are a lot of multiple other things that you can add by, let's say, some conservation tactics, processes that you have used during your conservation work. You can add up everything you want on the platform, and when the report is generated, you can actually include all this information in one report. Then you can download this report and modify it in the way that you want, or extract some parts of it that you like, remove some other parts that you don't like. It's a first draft of what you can take with all the content inside and use it for your own purposes. Now, the most important part is that all this process, by the time that you upload data to the platform, comes out in your hand up to 1 hour. So you can actually do your acquisition. It's going to take you 15 minutes for the acquisition. You need to set up, of course, your instrumentation. But if you are in laboratory, things are already set up. You place your artwork, you do the acquisition, 15 minutes, you take your data, you go to your laptop, log into the cloud platform, upload data, and when everything is uploaded, in 1 hour, you can take the report, print it out, and start understanding what you have on your artwork. It's the fastest way for documentation to happen in your work. So closing our technology development here, you can actually use our platform through a tablet or your phone or anywhere you want. Of course, the easiest way to work it is through a computer, but you have the capability to work with any screen and actually visualize the things that you want. So thank you so much for watching us here and listening to our presentation. My colleague Stefan will show you a little bit more on the real examples and how an end user has exploited all this technology in a good way. So thank you very much again, and I give the word back to Pedro. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vasilis, for this very interesting presentation. I will ask again to all participants if they have questions, please to put them in the chat to send to me. That we'll have these questions asked in the Q&A session that will be done after the presentation of Stefan. So now I will ask also Stefan to start his presentation. So Stefan holds a master degree in painting conservation from the Catholic University of Porto, here in Portugal, and has nearly 2 decades of continuous practical experience in conservation, interventions, technical project coordination, and the management of conservation teams. He also specialized in the examination of paintings with extensive experience in X-ray radiography techniques, and he has been an invited lecturer in many times in subjects like advanced methods of examination and documentation of cultural heritage. He is currently leading the conservation lab at Signino. So, Stefan, please start your presentation, and thank you very much for it.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for the presentation. I will start now, and good morning to you all. So, as Pedro said, I have now this role of leading the labs team within Signino. And I'm going to give you a more pragmatic and realistic testimony of what is an end user perspective of this machine. As many of you might know, when you have some kind of responsibility, also pondering the financial aspect of your yearly budget is a very important task for you to do. And for you to determine the scientific analytical tools that you are going to have at your disposal during an entire year, so we have to plan it a year ahead. It's a very important aspect of your work, and everything has to be thought through very well, because we are a fully private practice company, and we cannot afford just to invest in apparatus that we are not going to use, or it's not so consequential. So we started using XpeCAM, the previous version, like 7 years ago, the X01, and now we started using like 2 years ago the X02. And I'm going to show you some examples of, on one hand, its merits as an M.S.I tool, but also something very interesting that I think it's a game changer with this camera. So as I was saying, in here in Signino's lab, we have 3 main roles. We are the institutional output for external collaboration with other firms, institutions. We take care of most of the mobile artworks within our company. And we work as several units. We have conservation units, rehabilitation units, and we give the scientific assistance to all of them. So this part of the technical and scientific background, it's very, very important to us. Not only important to us, but also for our clients. And in the last years, we have been feeling that this scientific update is more and more demanded, not only by our private clients, but also by our, I would say, partners, institutional partners, mainly public institutional partners. We work a lot with with institutional sovereign of heritage. So for giving you small examples of first the merits of the M.S.I capacity of this machine, we can start first by the infrared. This is a small example of some documents that we did some work on. This is from Academia de San Fernando in Madrid. And as you can see in the picture on your left, for 300 years, the only Spanish Inquisition started censoring all this text in different times. And our client asked us if it was possible to, let's say, let's go back in time so we can see again the original text. By some difference of characteristics on the vitriol that was used in this ink, we could differentiate by its different reflectances where it was original and where it was added posteriorly. So digitally, we were able to remove all of that, and finally we achieved finally the original text that existed there. So in terms of IR filter, this uses lots of cutting filters. We are satisfied with the cutting of the precision of the cutting of these filters. We are already going now to a part of the other part of the wavelength that this machine is capable to go. And this is a naval chart. This is for an ERC grant of a retired Navy official that was studying naval charts, Portuguese naval charts of the 16th century. And it's very interesting how with the UV, we were able to see again as the figurations, the castles, and even the subtitles. And one more important aspect, and this is very interesting, is that even in the visible, the discrete type of radiation that we were able to cut made it possible for us to see things that we could not see before in the visible itself. So on your left, you can see these are all pictures of a Greek vase of the Archaeological Museum in Madrid. And as you can see on the left, it's basically what you could see before. And then on different wavelengths, already in the portion of the spectrum that is conventional to be in the visible, we were able to start identifying some figurations and parts of figurations of on those vases. And this was an information that was never reported before. It was invisible for thousands of years. So in terms of M.S.I, we can attest that it is a very competent tool. And then the XO1 wasn't so developed on this AI-assisted M.S.I, but the XO2 brought it a lot to the table, which made our life easier and also our communication better with our client. Because when we are using these types of scientific tools, we have to think that we are not working only for ourselves. We are also working for others that don't understand so much of this area, and our conversation with them becomes much easier when aided with these imaging systems. So as you can see, this is a very useful tool, this mapping. So it maps, Vasilis can explain this better, but it maps alike reflectances, and we are able to spot in area terms where are specific pigment. So this is a tool that is, or a feature that is really, really important in imaging types of examination. Um, the system itself, it's very versatile. So we usually show examples of paintings because that's usually what is more showy. But as we also have lots of rehabilitation works within the firm, um, we also try to direct it and try it because it is not very well studied to other kinds of supports. You have there an example of that is a tower, a modernist tower with 56 units of tiles, and it was severely damaged due to mold colonization that became really, really nasty because it got inside of the glaze. So it was very difficult to remove. Also, here in Portugal, we have been having some restrictions about the using of certain products. So in terms of biocides, we are in this moment trying to find which is the best substitution solutions for these cases. And on your right, you can see that this feature of mapping was able to tell us exactly the extension and intensity of the fungi infestation. So with all the solutions that we tested, we could see in real time almost what was the result of our treatment. So, and in the bottom, you can see the final result. It's not 100% eradicated, but we are very happy with the result. And also, I have to say that after the work was concluded, we are going to stay there for a long time, monitoring, so preventive conservation and monitoring all the mold colonization. So this is for a commercial firm, this is a very big asset to have a tool to allow us to keep up with the client, to satisfy the client, obviously, to protect the environment and the heritage, obviously, but also to keep our connection and helping the owner of the work. Vasilis already showed this example, and this example is very demonstrative how the results that you have with the XpeCAM XO2 are evolving. These two pictures only differ in time in 6 months. And this is from a panel painting, a Portuguese panel painting that is very important to us because it is from the 16th century. And there are the pictures, some of the main characters or the Portuguese heroes of that time. So in the cap, as you can see on your left, our first results weren't that spectacular. So we at that moment, this was the public institution was deciding technically which will be the intervention campaign. We entered also to aid them with this technology, and our results didn't show that much or didn't add that much information. Um, but after 6 months, with the same cubes, so we didn't go there to acquire new cubes. This is exactly the same cube. Um, through artificial intelligence, machine learning, we were able to identify specifically much more. So if you ever do a cube with this machine, keep the cube, and after 6 months, 1 year, whatever, you can run again, you can process again those cubes and information. I believe that they must have better testers for feeding the machine learning, and the results are completely different. Let me call your attention um, to the existence of Mother Lake. So as you must know, the existing of lakes can change everything on a cleaning campaign on a painting. And that's what happened. So at first, they were at risk of losing part of the glazing that the painting has. although this is not a part connected directly to the examination itself, I'm going to dedicate some time to this part because this is for me the game changer of this tool. Everything that you saw is then processed back in a cloud. You have to upload to a cloud, and then you start processing all your data there. The machine learning, etc. You have to do it there. And this brings a completely different paradigm. I don't know if this was done on purpose or not. I believe so. So whenever you extract all your data of your examination, you can upload it and put it in the cloud. So the cloud allow you not to have those usual problems that happen to me and to us, I believe, that everybody has to take their pen drive, sharing, I lost it. We have to ask another person, it's on the other person's laptop. So in here, it doesn't happen like this, like that. When we consider that a determined examination is fast or easily usable, we have to think about this. It's not the actual time also that you take to do the examination, it's also the time that you don't lose on these small things that aren't exactly related to work. So you upload your M.S.I images, you can fuse it with all the project information. You have all the spaces so you can fill in the project, interventions, gallery. So you can do your intervention report, your entire intervention report in a single place. Maybe it was my fault, but in these last years, two things happened to me. So we get immersed in work, and what happens? Or I take work at night to home, or I do the report anachronically. So I finish the intervention and then I do the reports afterwards, which creates lots of problems. Uh, and in this way, that didn't happen anymore. So you are working, you don't need to stop. So there's not a break on the workflow. You are working, you are inputting the data, and you are doing also the intervention report at the same time. And everybody is in the loop because now there's this I still don't have, but there's a possibility of the shared projects feature. So everybody can be kept in the loop. Everybody that is in the team is on the know on that project, and everybody can contribute. Um, this has saved us lots of time, and in this moment, it allows us to insert these acquisitions in the protocol of all interventions. So all the interventions, or almost all interventions, are being doing with the help of the cloud. And this created something that I also have a background in examination, and there were always some aspects of examination and as a restorer that I didn't think they were 100% correct, because sometimes we have to stop the work, go into the studio, making the exams, taking the samples, and that was on the workflow that severely damaged the workflow. So you couldn't do a fast-paced, continuous work because there was a cut there. And this is where I think they were really, really smart. Because for the first time and without noticing, it was silently, uh, I didn't have a tool kept in the closet, in the photographic studio, whatever, but we started using this specific machine in our midst. So we are working all together, and the machine remains in there. And that, I think, it's the real game changer with this machine. And we now treat it not as an M.S.I tool, but as a team assistant. And this has proven very useful to us. Pedro.
Okay, Stefan, thank you very much for your time
Thank you.
and your presentation. It was very interesting from the practical view of a conservation lab. If you can stop sharing your presentation, please. Okay, thank you very much. Now it's time. I want to thank you again, Vasilis and Stefan, for these very nice presentations. I encourage all of you to place your questions in the chat. Please send it directly to me. Vasilis, please, if you can go on microphone and camera, because I have here a couple of questions already to both of you. So I will start here with one question to Vasilis. So the question is the following: are you using a materials database for the pigment calibration? What kind of materials and how secure is the data?
Okay, thank you so much. These are the two questions generally. First of all, regarding the materials that we're using, yes, we have developed our own database with more than 500 different materials that we have acquired, developed, tested, and measured on our labs. And also we are using some chambers to perform aging, because we want to start exploiting all the aging changes that happen to materials, artificially, of course, not real aging, on the materials, and try to incorporate them in our database. So yes, we are using a specific database that belongs to SpectralTech. Regarding the security now, we have developed all the necessary cloud security features that exist right now in the market, in the community. So I would say that in terms of safety, we are as much secure as possible for the data that our end users have. I cannot go into details how the security protocols operate, but I can tell you that we have people that are examining all the state of the art on the security protocols to use in our platform. I hope I answered your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilis. Probably I will continue with you. What is the size of the field of view from the analyzed surface?
That depends on the optical lens, the objective lens that we use in front of the camera, and the distance between our XO2 camera and the object. So usually what we do, which gives us the best spatial information, is approximately an A4 size of a field of view. But you can go up to an A2 size of a field of view easily by just changing the objective lens and the distance between the artwork and the object. Now, why, some people will say, why do you have a limited field of view, if it's called limited, to an A4, let's say, or to an A2, and not get the full artwork in one acquisition? Well, you can do that if you want. You can go and use a telescope or a microscope or whatever you want to do and acquire, I don't know, 10 square meters of an image. But you can do this acquisition. But if you take in account that we are providing a solution, a complete solution to the end user, and you want to take in account that our database and the pigments that we have, the existing database, need to be used on the field of view, you can imagine that instead of having 100 micrometers of a single pixel measurement, you have 1 millimeter or 5 millimeters of a point. That means that you will be averaging a lot of materials together. And this averaging will provide you less accurate results from the pigment classification algorithm. That's the only main reason why we do not want to go beyond the A2 size of a field of view. Like said, technically you can do whatever you want, but as a solution, then the mixtures will be very difficult to provide with accurate results. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilis. Now I have here a question for Stefan. In terms of the laboratory, what were or are the big impacts of using the XpeCAM in your daily work? What was, let's say, changed in the way that you work? So you have to adapt to the work done with the XpeCAM in the lab.
For those that haven't used it, the sensation when you work with XpeCAM, it's a bit different when you use another tool, because usually as a restorer, when I use other tools, X-ray tubes, etc., you have the impression that you have to embody another persona, and you have to be in the skin of an engineer. You can see with this machine that it was done to restorers, and probably also with the help of restorers, because you always feel it that is it answers to your requirements. And as I finished my presentation saying, this something that surprised me with this machine, because there are M.S.I, it's not a new thing, or hyperspectral. Oh, we also chose more the M.S.I, not hyperspectral, also because of the documents that we can have. And other aspects, like more practical aspects, like, for example, the size of the images or the weight of the images. It's difficult sometimes to process those images of hyperspectral. So we want something that is fast and easy to use and easy for us to understand, and also everybody to understand, even if they don't have any expertise on this field. What really changed is that almost that we earned another colleague. The machine was all the machines are in the closet, and this one is in our midst. As for team management, it made things easier, and that's why we are included in almost all the interventions. Because also the file that you get from the report, it's editable. So even for reviewing, it's easy. We don't have to ask, is it done? Is it not? We can keep it up constantly. So it's that is what it makes it special, in my opinion.
Okay. I have here another question for you that is about if it was easy in terms of training, if of use in a conservation lab that has different usage, but I think you already also answered about this in your previous reply. So we have here some question for Vasilis. So about reflectance and fluorescence calibration, how it's done. And then the same person is asking also if it's possible to select a subset of wavebands to have an image classification.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the calibration process, indeed, I did not go through that in the presentation due to time restrictions. So calibration in all these technology bases is done by a specific target, a white target that has a very flat reflectivity response to light. Usually this is called spectralum. You will find it in the literature if you want to use it. That is used to do calibration of spectrometers. Now, if you want to acquire this material, it's extremely expensive. So let's say for an A4 size calibration target, the cost would be over 5,000 euros. Now, in order to avoid the investment of such let's say, an expensive material, we have developed our own calibration targets that have been certified by Spectratec and can be used in our platform for calibration. And they are much, much cheaper to use, which makes them, let's say, consumable. If you have a Spectralon in your lab, of course, you can use it if you want to. It will not give you any different results. But when you go to the field and you have such an expensive component, if it gets dirty or damaged or broken, it's going to be a cost. So for that reason, we have developed our own targets that are used in front of the camera to achieve calibration and then continue all the work. Now, calibration is done based on the geometry of the acquisition setup that you have. If you don't change your geometry, you perform calibration, you can just change the artwork, the object, the surface in front of your camera to the same position, and then you don't need to repeat calibration. One example is that, let's say, calibration takes about 10 minutes to be achieved, and then you need another 10 minutes to get the image of an object, or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on the illumination conditions that you have on the acquisition room that you are performing the work. Now, this is for reflectance. Fluorescence calibration is done exactly in the same way, but we have not yet enabled, you can do it manually, but we have not yet enabled the automatic acquisition of fluorescence multispectral imaging in our system. You can definitely do fluorescence by using our UAV excitation source and imaging on any band that you want in the visible. But for an automatic acquisition of a multispectral fluorescence imaging system, it's under development right now. So I think I answered this question. And the second question was, Pedro,
if it's possible to select a subset of wavebands to have image classification.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. So we have been working a lot on the machine learning algorithm to perform, let's say, pigment classification with less wavelengths. So the automatic acquisition is actually acquiring data from 400 up to 1,000 nanometers, which is the most sensitive range of the camera, XpeCAM X02, and is the standard that is used in all spectrometers in the laboratory conditions. So we're using this range to do the work. You could limit that, and we've done tests to only exploit the visible range, so between 400 and 700 nanometers, which is approximately half of the range. And we did some classification comparisons between the full range and the visible range. And we saw that, let's say, instead of going to over 90% of classification accuracy, we were dropping down to 75 and 80% of classification efficiency by using the visible range. So yes, it can be done. It's implemented in the system, but we strongly advise to exploit all the range of the automatic acquisition that the system has to exploit full efficiency of the machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm we have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilis. I have to say that we have a lot of questions in the chat. I think we will not be able to answer all during this session. So all of you have my email address. So in case we don't reply to your questions here during the session, please send it back to me by email and we will get back to you. So I will choose here two to three more questions. So I have one also for Stefan. In terms of identification of the varnish in the surface, what is your experience using the XpeCAM? And also if you are able to identify the type of varnish.
Well, as I said in the presentation, the cutting filters are very competent, so we can we can spot the true extension and intensity of it occurring. And we know already in advance, of course, that there we cannot determine exactly which one is it. It's more competent on the pigment department, but we can classify it. We can understand its nature. And also, in terms of varnishes, it also allows us to spot the traces when you are intervening, also the traces of varnish that you still have to remove or you don't want to remove. But about the IDing department, because people are always very keen about it, my suggestion is that they shoot the picture and then try to do it, because we already had lots of surprises even on rehabilitation contest. We identified several industrial or at least differentiated several industrial varnishes and ink and paints. So what I recommend is for people to also to do it and do the interpretation afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefan. Vasilis, I have here also some other questions. Which kind of algorithm do you use within the pigment classification? And probably combined to this question, another one, what is the margin of uncertainty associated when the given identification of the pigment is available to the user?
Thank you. So we have developed our own classification algorithm. We have not one, multiple. So our data scientist has been working on this for years to develop our approach. I cannot, it's not public available, our algorithm. It's proprietary for the company. So I cannot give you more information, but I can tell you that we have done tests in more than 5, 6 different well-developed algorithms for machine learning that we have tested, and the final approach that we're using provides the best results. In terms of classification efficiency now versus our database, of course, everything that is being provided into the platform as results need to meet the classification efficiency of over 93%. So whatever is less than 93% of classification efficiency is not presented into the list. So the list is only the best matches that you can find in correlation with the database that we have. That's it.
Okay. So another question, it's about the binding medium. The XpeCAM database already taking consideration the different behavior of the pigment according to the binding nature, or it's in the making process?
So we have included in our database paints that come with different binding media. So these exist already into our database, but the actual result on which binding media has been used in each case is not presented into the platform. It's an undergoing process. But I think that I'm not a conservation scientist, I'm a different field, but I think that this is more easy to be understood by the physical presence of the object, to understand if it's oil-based or if it's egg-based or if it's a different type of pigment used. Independently of that, this is on the process to be included to our database.
Okay, thank you very much. So the last one for you, Vasilis, and again, if we miss some of the questions, please send an email to me later on. What is the calibration or correction procedure that the system performs to guarantee the unification of light distribution, especially before stitching? Can other techniques be merged with the solution like XRF?
Thank you. Very, very sophisticated question because it includes a multi-variable, multi-parameter problem. So the calibration process that we're using is actually solving problems, or not only spectrally, but spatially also. So what I mean by that is that usually spectral, or the white target that we're using in front of the camera, is actually to enable us to have comparative results with whatever exists in the literature. So you need to generate what's so-called the flat line of the white light you're using based on the target that you have. So you say, okay, this target is the perfect white, and everything is compared by that. So we do that, of course, and our results are definitely comparable with any database that follows the correct spectroscopic policy across the world. The second part that we do from the imaging perspective is that since we're using a surface that it's, let's say, in parallel of the surface that you want to acquire after the calibration is achieved, you can correct for two things. If you have any, let's say, noise on the optical path, let's say some dust on the optical elements of the camera, or let's say through time, some dust is accumulated somewhere and you have some dark spot on your imaging device. By doing normalization with our target, you remove for that, you correct for that, and it's not visible anymore. So even these small problems can go away. But also light inhomogeneities that come from the way that the light sources are set up in the geometrical architecture you have on your system are corrected. What that means that sometimes you can see that by placing the illumination sources, let's say from both sides of the artwork or in one side of the artwork, you could observe approximately 10% of light intensity variations across your full field of view. All these go away by using the calibration process because you calibrate for every single point that you have on your image. And the final result is really homogeneous and clear without any issues. So yes, by using the calibration target, multiple things are corrected. Now, about the stitching functionality, it's really an interesting problem because you need to correct at the edges, like the person who made the question thinks, is that at the edges you have these inhomogeneity light source between different stitching data, and you actually see these change of the intensity between the two different imaging parts really clearly. It's clear because of these light intensity changes on the edges. These are achromaticity and let's say inhomogeneity problems. For the intensity inhomogeneity problems, like we discussed before, we correct for that, so there is no problem. Now, in terms of the spherical aberrations of the objective lens that we're using, we are performing correction if we know which objective lens we're using. So for the ones that we provide with the system, we have a correction of the spherical aberrations of the objective lens that are corrected later on the platform, and that's why you don't have any, let's say, misalignment of the points across the different parts of the images that are used for stitching. So intensity is corrected, spatially it is corrected, and that's why the result seems so fantastic for the stitching.
Okay, Vasilis, and the final question was about the merging the XpeCAM solution, the M.S.I, with other techniques like XRF and probably Raman and things like that.
Thank you, Pedro. Indeed, we have been developing, we fundamentally develop our platform to be able to accept data from other techniques. Currently, we are focused on developing as much as possible spectral imaging solutions, so our XpeCAM solution. But our goal is to incorporate XRF, micro XRF maps into our system, Raman maps, FTIR maps, and every other techniques into the same platform. And that's why we have already been working on fusion between our multispectral imaging system, and micro-XRF, for example. Also Raman, also FTIR. If you search the literature under my name, you will see that we have already made one publication that uses our multispectral imaging system with a micro-XRF and the fusion, and also the benefits by incorporating fusion of multiple techniques into our platform. You will see the future that comes soon by using our platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilis. If anyone wants this scientific publication that Vasilis referred, please send an email to me and we will be quite happy to share this with you. Stefan, I have a question about the biological damage. So the example that you show, how were you able to detect the difference between before and after the treatment?
Well, that's easy because mold has very high reflectancy.
Okay, and it was based on color difference or something else, and how reliable you think the results are?
Well, when you do it for a while, where you do that treatment for a while, you don't differentiate visibly what is the result of your intervention. So for a while, you don't see any stains, let's say, but they are there. So as they can reflect mostly on the portion of the UV spectrum, we cannot see it, but they are there. So it's very easily spotted by the camera. I think it's a piece of cake for this camera.
Okay, thank you very much. And there is a question that can be also for Vasilis in terms of to both of you. It's following this one in terms of the data collection. It is only from the surface, or we are able to go behind or below the surface. So this can be a question to Vasilis, technically speaking, and probably to Stefan from the operating point of view in the daily work in the lab.
So, okay, I will present, let's say, scientific from the imaging point of view and spectroscopy point of view answer. So light is able to penetrate deeper into the material when there is an optical window, when there is no absorption of the light that we interact. So if you can identify an optical window that within our spectral sensitivity range that it's allowing you to go deeper, yes, you can achieve that. Particularly for red pigments, become quite transparent above 750 nanometers. So if you want to visualize something that lies behind the red material, the red pigment, then you can actually visualize it in this range, and then you can actually see it. Similarly, in other pigments, you can see things that are lying behind the your artwork, your painting. We have multiple times looking in the near infrared imaging, and we have identified hidden paintings behind the painting. So they were over painted with a new thing above the original painting that existed. So it's two paintings, one behind the other. We have identified errors that in some case, one artist that we actually found out was that he painted something, he made a mistake, he flipped the painting 180 degrees, so up, down, and then he started painting again. So you could see the symmetry of a book, for example, that was in one corner, but on the back of the painting, it was also identified on the other symmetric corner of the artwork. It was amazing results you can find. So scientifically, the light can penetrate if it has sufficient optical transparency. So yes. Stefan?
I don't know if you want to add some comments from your side.
Yes, I can. From a more practical point of view of who uses it, it's also interesting. So they have different like UV visible and IR have different types of penetration, and Usually, when we are talking about this, we are using an abstract mock-up of a painting. It's always painting, but there are several other supports and types of works that this also applies. So if we leave a perimeter out and all the glazing out, we have usually a typical structure that is support, a preparation layer, chromatic layers, and varnish. Usually, it is accepted that we can see with UV. It's more superficial, so it gives us information about the varnish layers, also about the chromatic layers, and it's not able to go deeper than that. Visible can also sometimes go until the preparation layer when it is oil and the refraction index of the binding agent and the pigment. It's very similar. And usually, and that's what several people are seeking for. It's the underlying painting and the preparation drawings or the under drawings, usually with IR. This being a multispectral, it combines, it fuses all, so it's perfectly perfectly able to go further, also depending on the characteristics of the material, because it's not only the machine, it's not only the radiation, but it's also the characteristics of the machine. So if I want to identify a painting underneath a gypsum layer, it's impossible. Not because the machine is incompetent, but because it is impossible the radiation to pass through it.
Vasilis, if you can turn on also. Vasilis, how many images can be stitched together?
Thank you. So up to now, it's based on the, let's say, processing power that we are assigning to the system. We can do up to 9 spectral cubes. So you can divide your artwork in, let's say, a 3x3 array, and use that for the acquisition to collect your data. You can understand based on the size, the maximum size you can have. So with our system, you can definitely easily get an A3 size of field of view, or even an A2 size of field of view. So by multiplying that by 3x3, you can actually get an estimate of how large an artwork you can get with a 9x9 stitching will be.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is another question for you. It is possible to select the information and the images that goes to the final report.
You can all the images that you are acquiring or putting inside manually during the conservation practice can be inserted into the system. Now, if you have multiple of those, yes, you can select which image will go down to the report. All the automatically generated images are all of them inserted inside the report, but you can delete whichever you believe that it's not interesting to you. Furthermore, the texts that are actually explaining what the findings are in each image we have some boxes under almost every image that you can go there, click the button, and try to write the text, the information you want that belong to that specific image. You can do that by editing into the platform, and then they will be represented inside the report, or you can edit the report afterwards, after you download it, and transform it the way you want, optimize it.
Okay, thank you very much. There is here 2 questions to Stefan that I will probably put them together. One is asking which is the equipment that Signino is using from SpectralTech. And there is another one asking about training, if it's easy to use system for training. So probably you can combine both
Is it easy?
questions.
If it is easy to learn,
Yes, yes.
with or without coffee. So let's say that normal learning takes at the most 4 hours. If it takes more than that, there's something wrong in the communication. So it's one hour to explain, and the second hour you can do it to perform everything on your own, and then you know enough to have doubts, and then you are completely autonomous on doing it. It's very simple.
Okay.
And the first
And the
question?
question was the which system are you using from SpectralTech from us? So it's
Yes,
SpecCAM.
yes, as XpeCAM, we use the lamps, the illuminators. We've used for some years the XO1, and now we are using the XO2.
Okay, probably I will drop another one to you. It's about the applications of varnish in surfaces. Which is your experience in using the SpecCAM for it?
Well, the SpecCAM cover all that wavelength range that goes from, well, talking on varnish, from near IR to UV. So if it is UV, it is covered, no problem. About the identification, um, well, I can say it is competent, but it doesn't pinpoint which one is it yet, at least. It's very competent on pigments. So as a binding agent, binding agents, it's not something that is so developed. But you also, it's we are usually talking about paintings, right? So probably usually people want to know more about paintings. Um, you do it in two ways, or you will try to identify which is the varnish, which you can identify like the type of varnish that it is, the nature of the varnish, not the varnish itself, like pinpointed. And then you can keep track of the traces when you are cleaning. And what we had as an option was sometimes to cover ourselves with a black cloth and with a UV light, and this is much more comfortable. So we are just there cleaning, removing the varnish, and with the machine telling us, look, you have to remove more in here. In here, it's all good. So it's very practical in that way.
Okay. So now for Vasilis. So Vasilis, there is a question about the mapping of azurite and minimum pigments. What were the spectral range that you select as region of interest to visualize the distribution on the pigment signals?
Okay, so the automated process that we use in SpecCAM right now is to exploit all the spectral sensitivity range that it's, let's say, a standard in spectrometer. So from 400 up to 1000 nanometers. So all the visible plus the near infrared range. Now, in this range, we can achieve with our database correlations with up to 90 and over 90%. Now, if you want to use a smaller range or something happens and you cannot acquire in the near infrared, I don't know, a technical problem, you can use also only the visible range, so from 400 up to 700, but then the correlation results will not be as efficient as over 90%, but they will be something like 75, maybe 80% of a correlation for the pigment classification. That's it.
Okay. There is now a couple of questions from Mark that I will try probably to put a little bit together. So there is one that it's addressed to Stefan, but I think it's more related to you, Vasilis. In terms of the pigment classification, okay, based on AI, Mark was saying that Stefan mentioned it. And for him, it was not clear how the software is learning new information to better address pigment identification. So the comment from Mark is, to me, it looks like more like unsupervised classification methods that are different from AI, but he would like to understand it better.
Yes, I can do that. So, okay, machine learning and the AI in general requires a large amount of data to be used for training. In our case, in Spectrotech, we are developing our own database, and we are growing our own database of materials and that are used in conservation science. And we are, let's say, developing our own reconstructions, our own samples that we measure, and we include our database for later training of the platform. Right now, we have over 500 materials in our database, and we're still growing. And not only that, but we are also moving towards aging, and we are trying to perform some artificial aging, so it's relative humidity, temperature, and UV light, to those samples after we measure them, and try to make some correlations through our database for the aging, the artificial aging of some samples. For real aging, it's something that we are right now trying to understand and consider design how to do, to have some cases with real aging under specific conditions to include in our algorithms.
Okay, so let me see the other one. Okay, so we have here a question that is probably not right for now. That is from Rowan, that is asking us to show some examples of spectra generated from M.S.I to allow to make identification of different red lakes. So I think probably we can, Joanne, we can contact you back and probably do a presentation to you regarding to that, because this will take some time here. But thank you very much for the question. So continuing here, also a question from Mark. So there is some slides where is shown pigment percentage, calculated pigment percentage. When doing this, is the surface covered by the pigment identified or the actual percentage of pigment used in the area of interest? If the latter, how does the program deals with the pigment mixture, knowing that the percentage of pigments cannot be identified linearly, but require non-linear unmixing?
Thank you. Very sophisticated question. So the platform, what it presents is the actual surface coverage within the field of view that contains a specific pigment, not the amount inside the mixture, but if it exists or doesn't exist. So let's say if it says 13%, it means that 13% of the pixels do have this pigment inside, even if it is in a mixture or if it is absolute. The intensity level of the map, because if you observed during the presentation, there were different intensities, represents the percentage inside the mixture. But the number that we see there is actually how many pixels across the field of view contain this pigment.
Okay, probably I can mix here about the pigment database. So there is two questions. One is asking how secure is the database, and another one is how we get the reference materials. Okay, so for this, so I think it's to explain a little bit how we create the database and we maintain it. So I think it's around that.
So first of all, about the security, we are using any state-of-the-art of security in our cloud platform. So anything that the latest security architectures and technologies that exist, we use them in the cloud platform. Now, we are really working on this because of the sensitivity of the data that come from the clients and the artworks that they are used. Regarding the database now, the database is controlled by Spectrotech. So that means that we are the only ones who have access to the database and the information that we include there. We have specific partners, universities, that are collaborating with us, providing with new information, new spectra data, new content for the database, that it's validated, and whatever we use there is securely validated and correct. Now, how to obtain data out of the database? We have not yet incorporated that, but through the reporting, we will be able to provide, let's say, when you have a classification result that it's a specific pigment, let's say cadmium red. Then we will have a link. It's not yet implemented, but we will click on the specific link, and the platform will be generating the full spectrum that we have in our database regarding this particular pigment. But this is the plan for the next version of the platform.
Okay. I have here another one that is how the data that we have acquired from M.S.I regarding the pigments can be compared with the XRF analysis. How accurate is the identification also? So,
Okay, so tricky question, but we have been working on this particularly. You cannot compare the two different techniques. There are two distinct techniques. So one technique can provide you with chemical elements. The other one provides you with molecular information of what exists in the material. We have been working in the fusion of data between micro XRF maps and multispectral maps that we get with our camera. And we have a publication already out that we can send to you if you are interested in, about how the fusion, let's say the combination of those two distinct results, can lead to a better understanding and identification of specific pigment.
Pedro, may I?
yes.
Because I have a very strong opinion about this. And as Vasily said, like they are, the one thing is one thing, another thing is another thing. So let's imagine if XRF was much more accurate than the multispectral algorithm that we are speaking in here. Let's imagine it is. In that document that I showed, that was censored, which would be the applicability of for what the person wanted? It doesn't apply.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much also, Stefan. So the time is running, so it's already 1 hour. We are already passing the time. So let me ask here on a last question, also for Vasilis. So it's about the what are the available field of view for the M.S.I system, and also in terms of spectral resolutions that we can achieve with the system.
Okay, so currently XpeCAM has been using some particular objective lenses. The field of view can be any, from using a microscope up to a telescope, and have as large field of view as you want for the acquisition. Now, the problem lies on the platform, not a problem, the restriction, I would say, lies on the platform because of the mixture. So as you get to a larger field of view, the pixel size grows. So if you have a couple of micrometers spatial resolution, then you can say that you have, let's say, a homogeneous pigment in that point, or a small mixture of pigments or materials inside that small amount of measurement. But as you go to larger field of views, then your pixel might grow up to millimeter or multiple millimeters diameter. And if you do that, then definitely you will have a more complex mixture to be handled by the platform. And in this case, results will not be as accurate as the, let's say, the smaller point of the measurement. And this is due to, as you grow in mixtures, the average spectrum will be interfering with a lot of different things into the platform. And as we include in the platform more data from let's say aging, that will also be giving us less accurate results, more fuzzy results. So the field of view is a point. We have tested the system to be operating nicely up to an A2 size per data cube as a field of view. and then you can use stitching to increase, let's say, the size of the acquisition that you want to have.
Okay. So probably the last one, because I think it's interesting. It's about background material in paintings. For instance, a wall, if it's a fresco, a canvas, or any other materials. Does it differ so much in getting the data from the artwork?
Oh, very nice question. So we have been working in substrates, which is frescoes, it's wood, it's canvas, it's paper, any different type of materials. If you have a preparation layer, so a white preparation layer, then we cannot penetrate through that. So we go down to the preparation layer, which means that we cannot see the support material. Now, support material can produce problems like voids, like a change on the height map of the surface, and things like that. These will be problems to deal with as a conservation scientist. I'm not the best person to tell you how to deal with those techniques, those problems there, but definitely the XpeCAM needs pretty much flat surface to operate. You can use it on curved objects, but you need to have some photographic knowledge, techniques to go over that. So closing the iris, increasing the sensor sensitivity, to have a larger depth of field, to achieve a good image quality of a curved surface or a rough surface. But everything is possible to be achieved by using the correct approach.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilis, and also Stefan. So we need to close the session. Again, please excuse us if we are not answered to all questions, but we are already over time. Please address these questions to us, so you have at least my email contact, and I will forward to Stefan and to Vasilis. And also, we can try also to figure out a way to contact you back with these answers that we have here recorded on the chat. So I want to thank you very much, everyone that was attending this webinar. We hope that this was informative. At least we got a lot of questions. We hope that all answers were according to the expectations. And we hope to see you soon in another webinar, and please be free to contact us at any time you want. Thank you very much for all.